Welcome back to another Real Talk with Dr. Jim Sharps, where we look at topics of the day from a health perspective and the perspective of original medicine. So for those of you that follow the channel regularly, you know that we talk on a lot of different topics, but really trying to demystify, simplify a lot of these topics that are somewhat mysterious, if you're looking at it from a traditional medicine perspective, and actually try to convey that if you're following the 8 laws of health, actually you have some very clear routes to really make a difference on a lot of issues that other health approaches struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the main topics that we kind of come across, and Dr. Jim, you have much experience in dealing with this in a practice setting, but we wanted to talk about diabetes today, and it's something that is a very well-known to everybody. So perhaps, Dr. Sharps, if you could just start us off by talking about, insulin resistance in terms of type 2 diabetes.
Yeah. Basically, what insulin resistance is when, the cells in your muscles, your fat, the liver, the tissues, it's not responding well to the insulin. And so it's not really getting the glucose that it needs for functioning. All of the energy for the tissues, cells, etc., comes from the glucose. And you need the insulin to basically help to move that into those cells, tissues, etc. And insulin resistance is basically saying that those cells are being resistant to receiving that glucose, which causes a whole host of problems downstream.
And, in terms of how one addresses those effects, Dr. Jim, I know we've spoken many, many times about the power of RBTI, but if to go down a route that is not the traditional medicine route, what does original medicine have to say in terms of how type 2 diabetes can be approached, managed, and reversed?
Yeah, well, thanks for that question, because it really gives me the opportunity to talk about two things. RBTI, first of all, because that helps to give you some insight as to how well your body might be using the carbohydrates, the glucose in your system, and it gives you some clues about that insulin resistance that we talked about earlier. But more importantly, original medicine is the most powerful way of preventing and reversing it, because it is a diet and a lifestyle, a lot diet, but proper exercise, which also helps to be able to promote the insulin effectiveness, etc. So there's two parts of original medicine that are very important, and it's the nutritional part, the diet, and the exercise, which are two very powerful ways, two of those very powerful elements in those 8 laws of health that are profoundly effective in both preventing diabetes in the first place and for reversing it if you have it.
And you mentioned nutrition as one of those factors, Dr. Jim. What kind of initial guides could you give, without going into detail, because I know that, we always say, individual capacities and requirements.
Yes.
You're really consulting with a trusted original medicine practitioner. What would you say is general rules of thumb or guides be a good route to go down in terms of nutrition to help manage and reverse type 2 diabetes?
Yeah, and there are some general principles that apply to everybody. And the first and most important one is a whole food, plant-based diet. What do I mean by whole foods? Anything that doesn't come in a box, can, or bottle. So if you go into the supermarket, a very practical thing is to shop around the edges. That's where all the live foods are. That's where all your fruits, vegetables, etc. are. Now, meat and dairy would also be around the range of the edges, and at least meat and dairy can be whole foods. Not so much dairy as meat, but meat is a whole food, and if you have the digestive integrity and strength, you'll be okay with meat. Again, the RBTI and things of that nature will give you an idea as to how effective you are indigesting it, but at least it is a whole food. So that's principle number one. Principle number two is closely related to that, is avoid refined products, refined and processed foods. And where do you find those? You find those in the aisles. So that's those things that are box cans and bottles. Those are usually processed foods. It doesn't have the nutritional integrity to support the system in being able to either produce usable glucose, the carbohydrates that you need for energy, and or its proper utilization. So those are two principles that apply across the board without any kind of testing or anything that will provide huge results.
Thank you. And just, as we kind of wrap up this kind of very short segment on diabetes, or this video on diabetes, in terms of supplements, where do supplements fit into this original medicine paradigm? Is that something that you would, encourage, or would it be something you would advise caution in terms of using supplements to address type 2 diabetes? What would you say on that?
Yes, and I like the way you frame that question, because it's both. I would advise caution because all of the vitamins in the world are not immune boosters, and or minerals. So you want to apply them intelligently. So yes, you want to use caution, but there are some things that help across the board, and there are a couple of herbs in particular that are particularly relevant for diabetes, and those herbs are called Momordica, also known as bitter melon, and Gymnema sylvestri. Fancy sounding herbs, but they both help with both the production of insulin and also the improving your body's ability to absorb and use the glucose. So these are two herbs that are very helpful, two supplements that I over 90% of the time recommend to my diabetic and pre-diabetic clients. And then there are other vitamins and minerals that also help a lot in terms of building systemic integrity. And that's where we talked about RBTI in the past, but any kind of good mineral supplementation. So the best minerals are, again, in whole foods. So all fruits and vegetables are minerally dense in a bioavailable form. And then there are some good supplements out there that would help. So my favorite supplements are, again, whole food supplements. What do I mean by that? There are products out there like barley green, like my favorite is Tahitian noni juice. You hear moringa. You hear about these superfoods. And what these are supplements that actually come from fruits, vegetables, from plant-based, that are very, very high in bioavailable nutraceuticals. And then, based on what your chemistry, et cetera, is, things like vitamin C, vitamin D, all those things help. But those first few, the Momordica, the Gymnema sylvestri, the mineral supplementation are the best ways of boosting the immune system, enhancing all overall metabolic and systemic function for both preventing and reversing diabetes.
Dr. Jim, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with us as always. And if you're watching this video and you're intrigued, you have questions, you have comments, please do share them with us. We're very open in wanting to address any questions that come from our community here on YouTube. And we do want to create content that is helpful and informative. So if you do have any questions, comments, queries, challenges, please do leave a comment below the video. We will get to it. We do monitor our comments. And if you have any ideas in terms of requests for content you'd like us to cover, please do let us know. But Dr. Jim, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Bye for now. God bless.